Welcome to the Millennial and a Boomer Walk into a Coffee Bar podcast.
The very best podcast to get your life advice in the form of a grande caramel macchiato in a venti cup, 1/3 whole milk, 1/3 almond milk, 1/3 soy milk, double the amount of vanilla syrup, caramel wall in the cup, no caramel drizzle on top, upside down, of course, tall ice cup, whipped cream, rounded lid, one shot extra espresso, decaf, cinnamon sprinkled on the top, and for the name, that's David, spelled Dafydd, please.
Or to get your business, finance, and life support black coffee advice, I'm Dan, I'm a Boomer.
And I'm Chase, the Millennial. Thanks for joining us today.
Okay, welcome back to another exciting episode of A Millennial and a Boomer Walk into a Coffee Bar. We've already introduced ourselves. Hopefully people know us now by 20 plus podcasts and they in the groove, because we're in the groove and we're talking about finances and money and things like that. So it's good to see you again, Chase. Good to be across the table from you.
Glad to be across from one of the grooviest boomers I know.
That's right.
It really leads me to just call it out. We'll start it out strong here. For every broke or unemployed millennial, there's a boomer earning six figures.
Yeah, baby.
Who can't even open a PDF.
Ooh, ouch, ouch. Oh.
Oh, man.
Okay, I struggle a little bit with things like that, and
You know what the new PDF is, though? Opening a PDF? The new one is screen sharing in Zoom or something. Nobody can figure that one out.
Yeah, there's things associated with a lot of that. That's why people should come back into the office. Then you don't need to do Zoom, right?
Oh, what a boomer position to take.
But we've done some remote podcasts. Right now we're across from the table, which I thoroughly enjoy. I greatly enjoy your company and things like that. And I think we're giving some pretty good advice here. So,
well, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. You just never know. We could get off the rails quickly, but I don't think we will. We've actually planned this out and got some notes to follow. And today we're going to be talking about risk. And that's a fun board game.
I'm surprised you remember that game, because that's an ancient game. That's a good game, but no, we're talking financial risk. We're still on the finances. I know your attention span as millennials is quite short, but we're talking about what is risk and financial risk and what do you do about it. So risk is the exposure to danger, harm, or loss, and each one of those danger, harm, or loss can be realized in finances if you're not very, very careful. So risk in finance, the chance that you could lose assets like your money, home, car, or lose your earning potential where you're not making as much money as you expected to make. Those are some of the financial risks that come to mind right off the bat, right?
Yep. And we are going to get to, at some point on this podcast, an entire episode on risk generally. I'm a big fan of risk. I am. If you want to look at it from a big picture perspective, if you're not taking risks, you're not living.
I agree with that, actually, and that we'll touch on that as we go further into this thing, because let's just talk about a couple more financial risks. Like if you're an investor, previously what we talked about, one of those was an investing personality. You got to understand, you're going to invest your money. It could go up, it could go down. There's a chance that the company you invest in might not do well and you could lose your money. This would be loss of an asset.
Yeah, and we've talked about assets and what those are in the past. So if you're curious on what that is, just listen to all 20-something episodes and catch on up with us. We're a journey podcast. I think that's what you're supposed to say when you want people to listen to all your episodes. We're really a journey podcast. You got to start at the beginning and just work your way through them.
What do they call when you watch episode after episode after episode after episode? You're
Lazy. Oh, binging.
Listening. Go binge our podcast. But risks, like for example, another risk is if your profession is like a construction worker and you get hurt on the job. Oh my goodness. There's risks associated with that. You might not be able to do that same kind of work anymore. You might have to find a new job that pays less money. Loss of earning potential because the work will no longer be making as much money as they were able to do. That's another type of risk. So there's a whole bunch of exposure that is possible when you're talking about your finances. So why is risk always around? Why is it inevitable and why is it so uncertain?
Well, you face it every day. If you live in Dallas and you have to commute on 635, you take risk in your hands every single day. Yeah. But it's part of it, and it's part of your financial decisions. There's no way to completely eliminate risk. You just can't. You can mitigate.
You can.
But you can't eliminate.
Right.
There's always going to be that level of uncertainty involved in any decision that you make, especially financial, since we're on our financial kick right now. I don't know if you could live through the last 4 years and not realize that the economy can change at the drop of a hat.
Yeah.
And politicians sure seem willing to drop the hat. So, it's going to change. The economy is never going to stay stagnant. You'll see job loss. I don't know if you have. We're going to go on this for a second. Did you see the updated numbers to the new jobs report?
Oh, no, I saw that they came out, but I didn't see what they say.
They redid the numbers for a previous job report. They downgraded it by 800,000 jobs. That's like 90% off. And these are the people that are spending my tax money? Come on, give me a break.
The criteria or
They just said there was an error somewhere. Didn't expand on it.
Well, that error could be stressful on your risk that you take at changes in the economy, your job loss. Also, unexpected expenses. Oh my goodness, the kid's needs a cavity filled, or your kids play Little League hockey and they get hurt, and all of a sudden you got to go have some checkup, or changes in consumers' behavior. Hey, I'm seeing less and less people at the restaurants, less and less people at the movie theater. That could bode not well for some of the people that their livelihood is associated with the food service or entertainment industry. So,
yeah, all the things that were just mentioned are outside of your control.
Yeah.
It is impossible to predict how they will impact your decisions because you can't control them.
Right. And don't pretend you can, right? Now, you said it, you can't control them, but there's things that you can do, and we're going to go into that can mitigate a lot of those. So be aware of all the potential risks and don't freak out about them. They're there. There's ways to deal with them, live with them. Don't go crawl up and save all your money and don't have any entertainment and don't go in the 635 and DFW because there's some good restaurants over there, by the way. But you can plan for them and you can manage them. So talk a little bit about risk and return, especially when you're kind of investing, what that means, but there is a relationship.
Yeah, the simple thing that you'll hear people say all the time, the higher the risk, the higher the potential return.
Right.
If it's more risky, there is probably a very amazing upside if it works out. That's because investors are willing to take on more risk in order to potentially earn more money. But there's always that chance of loss. So when you're talking about high risk, high reward situations specifically, but investing generally, never invest more than you can afford to lose.
Correct. So in my early days, I was a go big or go home kind of guy, and I was high risk and it paid off. Now, there were some high risks that didn't pay off, but I could absorb those because I planned ahead. It was budgeted and everything else. But boy, oh boy, I love it. Go big or go home. I've changed that now and where I'm at. I'm a lot more conservative when it comes to investing right now because I want that standard amount of return with little risk to the loss of my money. But I get to manage that. It's my decision on what I do with that risk.
Let's dig in on that for 1 second and then we'll keep going. When you're young, if you lose it all, you have a long runway to scrappily get yourself out of the hole you might dig yourself into.
Exactly.
When you're close to retirement, your window to needing that money is much, much shorter. And you should probably slow down some.
Yeah. Yeah, you said it all. Don't invest in money that you can't afford to lose. And boomers, you're out there now is not the time to go hog wild on investments, especially on fads and things like that. Be wise in your investments and be selective in what you're going to do. But I will say it again, you get to control that, right? So, but what is risk management? It's a process. It's just like a lot of the processes that you go through. There's a process identifying, analyzing, and responding to risk. Simple process, right? Identify what it is, consider the various options for what you're going to do, and then respond to that risk and respond appropriately. Look at the risks, but look at the final outcome. So you can look at a risk and say, wow, that could be a really big upside, man. That outcome could be banking my money in my bank, right? But then take a stop and take a second and look at that and say, the final outcome of that could be I could lose it all too. So that's kind of where you got to balance, is not just the opportunity, but the final outcome. Keep that into your decision making.
Let's give a real world example to this. If you were to have invested in Zoom before 2020, you would have paid approximately $67.28 per share.
Yeah.
If you waited until 2020, 2021, and you bought at the peak, right? This is when everyone's buying and it's the hot thing. It would have been worth $492. If you bought before, you could have made, you couldn't see my air quotes if you're just listening to the audio version, you could have made a heck of a lot of money. I mean, that's what, almost 400%.
Yeah.
Okay, if you were the guy that saw everyone freaking out and panic buying this because it just keeps going up and up and up, and you bought at 492 and you still have all those shares today, it is trading today at $58.07.
Ouch. Wow.
And so understanding your investing is so important, because if you can foresee what's about to come, that's where you can get the bigger payoffs. If you're following the crowds and doing exactly what everyone else is doing, your $500 a share dropped down to $50 a share. You just lost your shorts with every share you purchased.
Big time. So I guess back to risk management with that example, you got to figure out how likely it is to happen. I know I take a look at something and I say, wow, if it's 100% chance it's going to happen, that's pretty good. And the dollar figure would be here. But if it's 75% chance it's going to happen, if it's 50-50, what's the likelihood of that going to be? And also, you can't mitigate risk of timing. You got to be really smart. Like if you would have sold at the right time, you could do that. But there's not millionaires all over the world because they know how to buy Zoom and sell Zoom at the exact time when it's at the highest or at the lowest. So really find out the likelihood and then decide how to respond to that. So back to the thing, you've identified the risk, you analyze the risk, and then you respond to the risk. And for every time that you're going to do an investment, you might have to say no. Everything can't be, oh yeah, this is a great investment, I'm going to go do it. There's got to be investments that you shake your head and say, nope, I'm not going to do it. That's the response in some instances.
So that needs to apply in a specific way. You might need to decide to invest a smaller amount of money or invest in a different company with less risk, depending on where your comfort level is, where your time frame is, and if you can keep a sane head when things go wrong.
Yeah, if you're investing in a company, look at the competition, right? Mm-hmm. I bought a couple of stocks that there's a duopoly. There's only one other competition. I bought a couple of stocks, or one stock in particular, that there's 100,000 competition, and it's a long shot that it's going to come through. But I've looked at it, analyzed it. I've kind of considered what the risks are. Yeah, I can afford it. And then I went ahead and purchased. So I followed that little process that we had talked about.
Wait. How'd that work out? Are we in the up or the downswing?
We are in the upswing because of a humongous downswing. There's nowhere for me to go but up in this one stock that I'm particularly talking about. Yeah, I have no hope. But,
but you have a good story.
But I have a really good story, and it's a lot of fun. But, you can invest, and your response can be, wow, I was going to put, $5,000 into this stock. After I done my analysis, my response could be, I think I'm only going to do $1,000 in stock. Why? Because I can't afford the $5,000. So there's a lot of things. Or you could, I remember my father, when we went through his portfolio, we identified a stock that was he was investing in, and you went out and bought the competition. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, what are you doing? My dad was the stock extraordinaire guru of all gurus. And how'd that work out for you? I've never seen a reverse stock split in my entire life with that stock.
Not just a reverse stock. It was a 20-to-1 reverse split. I went from a lot of shares to very few shares to the one share is not worth anything. Yeah, I think I got down to one.
So, but just because someone says, oh man, you got to invest in this. There's a story that you said you were looking at this at a conference. And you said, I'm going to go buy that stock. And you talked the buddy next to you into buying that stock. I follow that one, and you're not doing so well with that. So is he still your friend?
He did tell me after I told him to buy Boeing, and then I told him to buy this one, and they've both gone down since I told him to buy. He told me he will not take investing advice from me. I said, hey, listen, I'm in it for the long haul. Yeah. That's what you say when you're upside down in it. I'm in it for the long haul.
So there's a lot of financial risks and types of financial risks that you might face throughout your investing time frame. And not only investing, I guess I shouldn't say that, through your financial journey, right? And one of those is unemployment. There's a risk, no matter who you work for, where you work for, or how you work for, that you could lose your earning power through unemployment, right? Mm-hmm. There's now you can mitigate that risk, and there's things that you can do, but that's one of the risks. What's another one?
Yeah, liability. You have the risk of being sued or held responsible for something that causes a financial loss.
Exactly.
And if you live in California, your liability risk is much higher than in Texas.
That's right. You could have an injury. You could have a disability. The risk is associated with not only getting laid off, but that you can't work or work to the same extent that you did because of a health problem, right? Especially as we're getting older.
Yeah. Additionally, you could have a property damage issue. Something happens to your home or business, and it causes a financial loss to repair or replace it.
Yeah, we had a roof blow off on our house, and in Texas especially, there's the tornadoes and things like that. It was a big financial impact for us, and we recovered, but insurance wasn't much good because we were in such a high wind-prone area that we paid the deductible, which was thousands of dollars. So property damage can happen at the blink of an eye.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then you have theft and fraud. Someone's stealing your money, your other assets, or tricking you into giving away your money or assets.
That's right. Identity theft. People assuming you, that's one of the things that they just came out with. Social Security's numbers have been compromised. All of a sudden they'll be opening credit cards in your name and maxing them out and then walking away, and you're left holding the bag. So
yeah. Inflation. This one's where the government's stealing from you by causing inflation and the risk of your money value going down, making it harder to buy the things that you need.
We're seeing that right now. I mean, we are. And then market fluctuations. Values go up, values go down. There's never a great time to buy, and there's never a horrible time to buy. Some are just better. And even in the times of downturns, you can still invest wisely in that. But it's harder to manage a lot of those risks. So.
Well, if you can afford to purchase during the down times, that's where you see the biggest impact.
Right.
So when everyone else is freaking out, losing their mind, if you can go buy, you will have a better impact. Don't sell, go buy. And then when everyone's buying, you might want to slow down and take a few more steps to think about this, because
Yeah, the goal of investing is to buy low and sell high. There's a lot of people that have that a little bit backwards, where you buy high and sell low.
been there, done that.
Yep, and so you just kind of hold on it. But then there's a couple of types of risks that can be independent of one another. They're not connected, or there's some that can be related and almost like a domino effect. What are your thoughts on those?
Yeah, so if you lose your job, that was one risk that was realized, but then it creates another risk. Now you might not be able to pay your bills. You might lose your home. Your car might get, reclaimed by repossessed. Thank you, by the person who actually owns it. So, they compound each other, and it feels like everything is falling apart because they just keeps one right after another.
And they're all related, right? Mm-hmm. The other one is the independent, and they're not related to each other. The risk of identity theft is not related to necessarily the risk of property damage. So you can have all these one-offs, or you can have a waterfall of related risks. And so make sure you understand that. And there's ways to go ahead and put the brakes on some of the related risks. And the independent ones, they're going to be like one-offs, and they're real. They're just as real.
Yeah. So you do have an avenue that you can take through insurable, and then some of them are non-insurable issues or risks.
Right.
Explain the difference.
So some risks are insurable to protect against financial loss. Just kind of you side it. So one of those is buying homeowners insurance to protect against the risk of damage to your home. We all do that if you're a homeowner, or if you're a renter. You can say, wow, there's damage to my goods. And that's one of the things, and the next episode we talk about is going to be insurance. And that's just buying down risk, right? Or you can buy health insurance to protect against the risk of illness or injury. Now, for young people, the risk of illness or injury, depending on what your occupation is a lot lower than maybe the risk to someone who's been around for a while and is aged, and who gets up and their bones creak when they're getting going. So it's all also tied to millennials being younger. You guys can take a little bit more risk. Boomers, we probably need to invest a little bit better in some of the insurable risks. Other risks are not insurable. We just talked about a couple that you can buy insurance. What are the non-insurable risks?
Well, there's really no way to get insurance against inflation. If someone has a solution to that problem, let me know in the comments, because I would love to be able to mitigate some of that, but there's really not much you can do. Or market fluctuations. I mean, without being able to know what's coming, it's hard to plan for that. And it's so risky that nobody wants to provide insurance for you for that.
Right. Yeah, and people say, well, if you have inflation and things cost more, grow a garden, or go buy a cow and do some of these things. Yeah, but you're really not going to be able to protect about the rising costs and expenses of an economy, right? And things like that. So market fluctuations, they go up and they go down, and there'd be a bunch of millionaires if someone had a corner on that part of it. So
yeah, ultimately, to close this bad boy out, risk plays a large role in our financial lives. Understanding the different types of risks and developing strategies to manage them can really help you stay on track and achieving your goals. And for us, we're going to mitigate a little bit of risk of not getting more viewers by asking you to like, comment, share, 5-star review, best looking duo of boomer and millennial, whatever you want to put in the comment section is fine. Whatever is fine.
There's risk associated with that, and that could be, you could be countercultured or cancel cultured if you liked a couple of clowns like us. But we would sure appreciate that if you wanted to reach out and give us a thumbs up or a thumbs down, because we do think that even in managing risks, start with a budget. We always want to go back to being money wise, and you get to choose on what that's going to be. So anyway, let's wrap it up.
Yep, just remember, because it's different doesn't mean it's
Wrong.
See you next week.
Bye.